As promised, I'm catching up with a detailed test of the pure image to video feature, even though a few days have already passed since the release of Runway Gen 4.5. Stay with me, because there are some genuinely surprising findings ahead. Before we dive in, let me share a quick thought about this channel. I'm not trying to chase one hype after another. Let's put it that way. Just to squeeze out as many views as possible. Even though Kling 3.0 is everywhere right now, I want to stick to what I announced about Runway Gen 4.5. And that means proper, in-depth tests that cover both strengths and challenges. For me, Runway has been and still is a solid platform, despite a few points of criticism here and there. It's something I use regularly, and I'm still maintaining a subscription. After the, let's call them, rather mixed results with the motion sketch feature, link in the description, my goal was to take a closer look at the bold claim on Runway's own website. Gen 4.5 is the world's top-rated video model. So I prepared a balanced set of images in Midjourney, covering different styles, and then evaluated all existing Runway prompting rules together with ChatGPT. In short, motivation and material were fully loaded. If you want to get started yourself, just click on Tools in the left navigation and then select Video at the top. That takes you straight to the right place. To use image to video, you simply upload an image right below and enter your prompt underneath. If you use the Runway Help Guide, you'll also find helpful tips on prompt creation and a clear overview of what usually matters when prompting. What I find especially useful are the presets in the lower left corner. They give you solid hints and matching prompts for camera, motion, and action. Other platforms could honestly take this as an example because it helps users understand the underlying logic much faster. Just make sure you select the Gen 4.5 model in the lower right and choose one of the available duration options above. You can go with 5, 8, or 10 seconds. Let's move on to the examples. Example 1 starts with a young Indian mountaineer. The prompt follows one of Runway's official guidelines and reads, "The camera executes an aggressive, sweeping, horizontal arc around the subject." This was the very first result using Gen 4.5 image to video, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. If you pause the video and look at individual frames, you'll notice an almost perfect execution, even in the motion blur. Below the video, still shown here in the lower resolution stage, you'll find additional features like edit with Aleph, lip sync, Act 2, retime video, expand video, use frame, and upscale. From a usability standpoint, this is clean and well organized, without the flashy, overloaded buttons and colors you see on some other platforms. That's a big plus. And once I hit upscale, which costs just 10 credits for a 5-second clip in 4K, the result becomes even clearer and sharper. Runway clearly has a strong preference for realistic scenes. In example 2, an image from 1982, meaning the source quality is intentionally a bit weaker. The task was fairly simple. The surfer stands up, leaves the surfboard behind, motorboats move across the water, and on the right a woman sits on an air mattress. You'll find all prompts in the pinned comment. But back to the result itself. The staging is very convincing. Anyone who knows how a footprint looks in very wet sand will immediately notice how well this is interpreted. The woman on the right waves exactly as instructed. The air mattress gently rocks in the shallow water, and even the boats and the water follow a physically believable behaviour. Now let's move on to something that's particularly interesting from a cinematic perspective. One of the presets shows a so-called fly-through. The example prompt provided by Runway is extremely minimal, and example 3 is based on that. The idea here was to recreate such a scenario, not as an architectural model, but as a flight with a speeder through an abandoned post-apocalyptic megacity. If you look closely, you'll notice some free interpretation here and there, with less emphasis on fine detail and more focus on motion, dynamics, and speed. But that's exactly the point of this approach. What really matters is the overall impact. If I pause the video around second 4, we get a very fitting cinematic result, with convincing light, structure, and motion blur. If you want to give the AI complete freedom, you enter a prompt that basically says you're in charge now, I'm just watching. In more concrete terms, that means a handheld documentary film style with natural camera shake, a raw indie aesthetic, heavy organic film grain, natural daylight only, unpolished realism, and an observational tone. In example 4, we see an armoured truck staged in a very cinematic, heavy close-up, clearly reminiscent of a well-known film style. The same approach also works with a polar bear fleeing from a massive avalanche. This is where Runway really shows its strengths. If you're willing to lean into these kinds of sequences, the results can be genuinely impressive. Just look at the collapsing wall of ice in the background. Without exaggeration, this comes very close to perfection. In example 5, we move back into a photorealistic setup, this time in the fashion space. A woman in a red dress walks through the Australian outback, accompanied by 5 greyhounds. The prompt is once again very simple and short, describing a camera that moves with organic, yet steady motion to track the subject. What really stands out here are the details. Pay attention to her eyes at the beginning of the clip. These small, almost subconscious visual cues are what make a scene feel believable. It almost feels like a brief, silent exchange with the photographer, as if she's asking, should I start walking now? Her posture, the wind, and the slightly chaotic behaviour of the dogs are all staged extremely well. Example 6 switches the style to illustration with a strong, epic narrative feel. The protagonist stands in front of massive fortress walls and launches a drone, revealing what lies beyond. This is where Runway's limitations become more apparent. The result is fine, but there's clearly room for much more depth and detail in the scene. This becomes even more obvious when we look at the cathedral example. The image itself has endless potential, yet what we get are layers that slide against each other, trying to simulate movement. The sky collapses into something that feels like a flat 2D backdrop, and the flames look more like they were added on top rather than truly integrated into the scene. With example 7, we switch back to a photographic style. Using the prompt, the camera performs an extremely rapid, aggressive crash zoom. We ask the AI to bring us straight into a close-up of the man's face. What's great here is the movement of the banners in the background. No one asked for that, yet Gen 4.5 clearly understands that this kind of motion makes the scene feel far more alive. If you look closely, the face does unfortunately morph a bit at the very beginning. This is something I've noticed across many AI video platforms, and I recently ran a whole test series on it. Faces at certain sizes seem to be particularly vulnerable. With Runway, this morphing becomes much less noticeable once the head occupies roughly 1/3 of the video height. Oddly enough, the tip of the nose ends up slightly out of focus at the end. And finally, example 8, which combines a large face with an illustrated style. At this point, a small tip that helps me improve the currently not quite ideal results from Midjourney. Simply upload the Midjourney image into Google Flow and add optimize the image, in particular the background. What you get after that, pay close attention to the street and especially the lamps, is a much cleaner result. This makes things easier to work with because the video AI no longer has to guess what the scribbles are supposed to represent. The prompt itself is fairly straightforward. The man should laugh, wave, and cars pass by him. Once again, just like in the motion sketch tutorial, Runway shows a tendency toward forced movement. Otherwise, it's hard to explain why the instruction-fixed perspective of the motionless camera was ignored. Unless, of course, the AI interpreted that as the distance between camera and subject must not change. That's also a possibility. Those were the tests. Whether the bold claim world's top-rated video model actually holds true is something everyone has to decide for themselves. It clearly depends a lot on the specific use case. For me, one thing became very clear. Runway is best approached with a focus on photorealistic scenes. Animated illustrations do work as well, no question about that. But personally, I gravitate toward realism when using Runway. I'm also glad that the rather unpleasant morphing issues played only a minor role in my tests, and it's genuinely interesting to give the Runway AI free rein. Take something like a crocodile chase, for example. In many cases, the AI simply knows what to do. Not always, of course, but often enough to be impressive. One final note for everyone who made it all the way to the end. My original goal with this tutorial was actually to test the character swap feature. Once you're in the Runway interface, you can either click the corresponding button on the right and then hit Try It Now, or you'll find another entry for it on the left, under Explore Gen 4.5. I'm not trying to complain, but I do think it's fair to ask Runway this question. Why offer this feature if it didn't work a single time, even when following all the prescribed steps? The scene image was fine, the character image was fine, yet it simply didn't work, neither with a long prompt nor with a short one. Swapping out the character image and adding motion instructions via Sketch didn't change anything. Even switching the browser made no difference. As strong as image to video is, these recurring issues, whether it's the heavy morphing with Motion Sketch or character swap not working at all, make it hard for long-time Runway users to really see the full potential of the platform. To wrap things up, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Yes, Runway does come with challenges at times that make working with it harder. You're seeing a few of those examples right now. But let's be honest, who consistently gets perfect results right away on other platforms? With Kling, for instance, I recently had to retry clips up to 10 times because something kept going wrong. That's just the reality of video AI right now. As users, all we can do is hope this continues to improve. Let's see what Kling 3.0 delivers. That's my next deep dive. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon. Your channel, AI Now You Know.